Hello there, this is Chadderbox, and you may know that I created my own programming language. If not, that's fine. I created it to solve some problems that I had with Python, a language that I struggled making a game with a while ago, and I really wanted to test it out. So why not demonstrate it by making another game? And not just any game. Only the best of the games released in the late 1970s. Space Invaders, or Galactic Invaders, as my lawyers would tell me. Please don't sue me, I'm literally about to go bankrupt. I have a really tiny amount of time for this project, but if my programming language is up to the task, it should be no problem. For this project, I'm going to be using Raylib because it's just good. I can import Python libraries into my code in my programming language, so in theory I could use Pygame, but I've done that before and we know how that went. I looked up a Python library for Raylib that I could use, but annoyingly all of the bindings use Python's signature snake case naming convention, which I don't like, and I'm not making my own programming language to have to follow other people's rules. I initially spent a few minutes making my own bindings, but luckily someone in the very nice Raylib Discord sent me a way that I could use some of the other bindings with the normal Raylib naming convention. I started by creating a game window, which was pretty easy. After this, I was working on getting a basic entity system set up. An entity system allows me to greatly reduce the complexity of my code, and also the amount of code that I write, which is why it's so handy. Oh, it's a sponsorship alarm. This video is sponsored by Core, a game creation platform that allows you to make and play multiplayer games. And it's certainly a lot easier and faster than how I'm making games in this video. If you're a long time viewer of the channel, then you'll recognise Core, because I did a video on it about a year and a half ago. Time flies. Since then, Core's massively improved and added a load of new content and ran many exciting events, like one featuring Deadmau5. If you look at my channel, you might wonder why there are no videos on making a multiplayer game, and that's because it's super hard. Core completely handles multiplayer networking for you, which saves so much time. You can make your own games using thousands of free art, sound and game assets that are provided, or take matters into your own hands, and program your own game logic like I did in my video. Core is powered by Unreal Engine, allowing you to take advantage of the awesome high quality graphics features it provides. The best part is that you can actually make money from your games with the Core Perks program, offering a 50% revenue share, allowing some creators to use Core to be able to pay off their bills, which sounds pretty good to me. Check out the link in the description to be able to download Core for free and start making games. But back to the video. I actually had a pretty bad problem working on this, and I kinda gave up on the entity system. I wanted to do something slightly different anyway, and I didn't think Space Invaders would be very complex, so I decided to go with a more slimmed down approach of handling each class independently, which I think was a good way to do it, as it actually worked. At this point, I realised my programming language was missing a feature that I wanted quite badly for this project, which was static functions. Fortunately, the best thing about having your own programming language is that you can add whatever you want to it, so I did exactly that. After a bit of fumbling around in the code for the language, static functions were implemented and working properly most of the time. While I was at it, I also added a few more features because I wanted to make the language slightly easier for me to use, but after that I was back on track planning out how I wanted to handle making the game. Space Invaders is a super simple game. You have a player, you have aliens, they both move and shoot each other. That's about it really. I knew I wouldn't really need to do too much for this project, and a lot of the elements are similar so I can reuse a lot of the code. In Space Invaders, the player can move horizontally, so I programmed that in using a box as a placeholder. It's super simple. Just check the player's input and change their position based on that. From there, I worked on adding some enemies, just a box that moves around, which sounds just like the player really, so it should have been easy. Except it wasn't. I kept trying to run my code and it just wouldn't. It kept telling me there was a syntax error over and over again, giving me the same random words as the error message. I went all over the code, commenting out parts, removing parts, and then I found that the bug was somehow caused by a comment. It was literally a comment saying on destroy. I have literally no idea how that caused a bug, but changing the comment fixed it. From there, I had to write a lot of logic to handle the enemies moving from side to side across the screen, which is a bit harder than it sounds because they can dynamically change size after they get shot, messing everything up again. This worked pretty well the first time round, apart from me getting the collision boxes wrong, but that was an easy change. At this point, I added sprites for the player and the enemy. I basically copied down the enemy sprite, but I didn't like the original Space Invaders sprite for the player, so I made my own version for that that looked like a spaceship. The next priority was the bullets, which is where most of the problems came in, but most of them were super minor. I made the player shoot rectangles, and then checked if they were colliding with any enemies before destroying both of them. I had a few weird errors with my destructors and them not being called, but overall, everything went to plan. Then I copy pasted the code to make an enemy bullet class, and it didn't work. Of course, since the error reporting in my programming language sucks, I had no idea what was causing it. Stupid things like this are why my videos take so long to make, because I'm just hunting down random bugs that I inflicted on myself for no reason. To make it worse, it wasn't an actual logic error bug, it turned out to be that my new class was missing curly braces at the end of the class. I must have spent a few hours just trying to figure out what the bug was at this point, testing different builds of the programming language, and going back and forth and scanning over the code to figure out what could possibly be wrong. But yeah, a missing brace was a problem. Fun. After that though, I had the player shooting bullets that destroyed enemies, and enemies shooting bullets that would destroy the player. While making the enemies shoot, I had to try and figure out which enemy was the lowest and have them shoot, and when they died, the ones above them just wouldn't shoot. I added a score counter for the player, counting the amount of enemies that the player destroyed, and then I added a basic game over screen when the player lost. And there we go, a bad version of Space Invaders. It's impressive that with modern tools, albeit limited time, I still couldn't make something as good as the old version. I committed the project, and now I'm here. Basically what this experiment showed me is that there really isn't much point making my own programming language, because there are just going to be more problems with it than solutions to the problems that I set out to solve originally. You can certainly tell that it was made in a rush. Maybe I'll do more stuff with it in the future, but I have other interesting ideas to work on, and exams before that. If I have any spare time, I might do a bit of work on the programming language, because I think it'd be really cool to have something that people would actually want to use. But for now, I'm going for a lie down. Please like the video and subscribe, it inflates my ego a ton. I also have a Discord and a full-blown game that I made. Also, don't forget to check out Core using the link in the description. Have a good day!